adult, I think I can handle this. Whatever, that guy was totally in love with me. This is gonna be awesome. No! Close the door. So my friend found this stash of letters. She still had all the letters, all these 7 years worth of letters. And in it, the first letter she found with my name was a lengthy description of the prom. And he did not have a good time. I would like to formally object. Because it was not a fun prom. So basically he said stuff like, oh, like she made me wait, like women are bloops. I was like, I made him wait? No, that's not cool. The hairdresser made my hair look weird. She had to fix it. So basically it was like, you know the film Rashomon? Like where all these people see the same event from different perspectives? It was kind of like a prom Rashomon. But everything I remembered is like, that was cool. I was the cool one. It was like, no, you're a loser. Oh my God. It's so sad, right? I like the people who are giving me sympathy. Those people are good people. So basically my friend tried to make me feel better. She's like, you know, I don't think his heart belonged to anyone, to be honest. And all these ideals about the girl he's going to end up with, and she didn't really exist. Certainly wasn't me, apparently. But I wasn't buying it. If he thought I was so gross, why did we spend all summer making out? Here I am listening to Marcy in my room. As an adult, I had to do something before I regressed completely. So basically, I went on a mission. I went on a mission back to my parents' house, which luckily is only like 20 minutes away. So I know I should not give a crap about a boy I dated 15 years ago, but as luck would have it, I currently live 15 miles from the scene of all this drama. I decided to head to my parents' house and see what my teen diary had to say. So I hopped on the LIRR, I watched some Elementary with my dad, highly underrated. And late at night, I snuck into the attic. My mom declutters like it's her job, but we decided long ago that my high school diary was off limits. I found entries about M almost immediately. So basically it turned out not to be a big deal. I forgot that we didn't even know each other. I mean, by definition, I went to a girls' school, he went to a boys' school, I didn't know any boys. But there was one possibility that intrigued me, something that did not have anything to do with the gentleman in question. So imagine an alternate reality where this person, my friend Lauren, had gotten flown over to this Long Island boys' school prom. I mean, like, no one at either school knew any people of the opposite sex. And so I probably would have gone anyway, just with somebody else, because I was there. And so like, we'd all be like taking pictures. Oh, they all look so cute. And I probably would have thought she was really cool. Like if this British girl showed up at my Long Island prom, I would be like, whoa. Oh my God, do you know like all this British stuff that I like that anyone else on Long Island likes? And she'd be like, I kind of like X-Files. And we would have had a cool conversation. Basically, I would have been like super impressed. I'd just been like, this girl is amazing. And so basically, like the more I read my diary, the more I forgave this guy. Because I was like, we didn't even really know each other. Yes, it's a kind of a crappy move to like, you know, write long letters to another lady about how crappy I am, but that's cool. And so like, you know, we were just kind of doing the best with what we had. Yeah, that's cool. But reading my teen diary, I kind of remembered how in high school I also had no friends. And it would have been so cool to have a friend. Yay. And so basically I was like, you know, one thing I realized as I kept reading was that I spent most of high school convinced that if I had a boyfriend, then that would make everything else okay. Whereas I probably should have just focused on getting some friends. The end. you for listening to that rambling story.
That was great.
We do have time for some questions. If there are any questions in the audience, if you get Sandy and Alan back up, we would love to hear from you.
I have a question. Is it pretty much always that with comic books that the artist is the writer and the illustrator, or sometimes is it a different kind of collaboration?
Generally not. I mean, it's happening a lot more and more now. But it was, for a long time, it was the exception. When I was a kid, I didn't understand how things worked, but I remember seeing all these credits, like, oh wow, somebody inks for this. I thought it was like so extravagant that you could have all these people help you like a factory. The fact of the matter was, when I first started working with someone as a kid, I hated it immediately because just imagine writing with another like 10-year-old and just random stories. I'm not drawing any of it. How my first collaborations were, I've since obviously matured and can sort of handle working with another person, but it is an entirely different experience, an entirely different discipline. Working with someone. When I work with someone else, there's a lot more redrawing.
Yeah.
A lot more rewrites. A lot more blame.
Lame. Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Interesting. In the American comic book industry for years, you were almost not allowed to do more than one part of the process because that way you would own more of it.
That's still kind of the case.
Oh, it's still okay. Update.
The major houses, and it's all, they claim that the real reason is you'll move faster.
That's,
Because that way you can pencil 3 issues at a time. So
Yeah.
I was thinking of the writer's only writing.
Yeah.
You can make him do rewrites like 2 years into the future.
But then you have situations where people are doing more than one thing, and the big house will tell you like, oh, you can do both, but you can only take credit for one.
Huh.
I mean, there was, there've always been, it's a tough thing to, the largesse of it was always sort of a factory situation, but as far long ago as the 40s and 50s, there were people in the horror comics who notoriously wrote and drew their own stuff, Wally Wood. Certainly in the newspapers it was pretty common, but in the news strips, that's where you had sort of one person doing the sort of acting as a one man. Oddly enough, I didn't like that stuff as much. I mean, the stuff that blew my mind when I read it for the first time was Harvey P. Carter's American Splendor. That was the first time I read something. I read it as a kid, and I was like, I can't believe this guy's just telling stories. Like, this is real. And it was so sad and like melancholy and heartbreaking. And I just couldn't believe how he could do what I thought. They had already drilled it into my head pretty early that comics were garbage. So I was quietly developing my stuff as a kid and reading novels and thinking that's really only where serious work can happen. But then I remember reading his stuff and he'd tell some of these stories were just such brief vignettes about just how long you can be in a city, how long you can be in the world. And I was just like, that's what I want to do. I want to do something that important, something that means something to somebody else out there the way those stories. I mean, I had no idea who he was until he started appearing on David Letterman, and I was like, oh. So clownish, but it was striking. That was one of the first times that I remember sort of coming across that. Other than Walt Kelly's with Pogo, I mean, there were incredible people doing this virtuosic work, but this was clearly someone sort of undertaking it the way a novelist would, the way a journalist would, and it was really impressive.
Yeah, I feel like there was maybe a transition in the 1970s where people like Phoebe Glockner or Robert Crumb or Aileen Kaminsky would start telling their own stories, and there's just sort of immediacy to it that I think was maybe hard to deal with at some point, especially because a lot of these people came from a very countercultural perspective, or there's a shock element to some of the stories. But then you have books like Mouse by Art Spiegelman, where it's just a game changer. Like someone is telling this family story that's been dredged up, so painful that you can barely imagine them living it, let alone then retelling it. And I feel like those kind of recalibrated the way comics were made. There's some comics cultures still, if you read a lot of European comics, often there will be an artist paired with a writer still. But I feel like with the advent of lots of memoirs, like Fun Home by Alison Bechdel, for example, they've been very successful, and so I feel like the publishing market is going more towards that at this moment. You have people like Ross Chast, telling these like deeply intimate stories about watching their parents, grow old and die, and that's something that we all deal with, very intimately. And so I feel like while Marvel and DC are still thriving under the old model, gradually the sort of like mainstream that most people encounter in comics, the comics you see in your library, for example, or in books, once you do the internet. Like there's more of a diversity in terms of people telling their own stories as opposed to working as part of a team.
Yeah, everyone here should read Will Eisner's Contract with God, which is sentiment. I mean, he's another one who started off, you can't even call The Spirit like a mainstream book, but it was a sort of superhero book in a sort of film noir vein, and he was sort of again sort of spinning all plates, in that context. In regards to the stuff that you're talking as well, I mean, I would mention something like Persepolis and these like incredible books that are just they're graphically groundbreaking, and they're telling these stories that you just haven't heard anywhere else. So.
And also, if I could just say one more quick thing, it's not just like people telling stories that are true. Also, I would like to give a shout out to like people like the Hernandez brothers, who were like telling stories that were like based on their real lives, but were fictionalized, and also brought in Latin American history in the case of Vito Hernandez. So like I don't want to make it sound like it's just people talking about themselves, although some people just want to talk about themselves. That's probably a problem.
I do all the time. As evidence by this long answer that I very simple question. Yeah, going back to Robert Crumb, people like that. I mean, the underground comics in the late 60s. Some people might see that work as somewhat puerile, but it was important because it did something with the medium that just hadn't been done before, and it got in my mind. I started telling myself that like all my teachers were wrong at about like the age of 12 with regards to comics. I listened pretty much with regards to everything else, but anytime someone would tell me comics and shit, I just okay, you're not one of the cool teachers. Part of what you're saying. That happened all the way through Cooper Union, which is supposed to be, one of the best, art schools in the world, and yet my friends and I, the four of us, we basically did our comic book work as a sort of satellite curriculum and didn't show it to any of the teachers. I think I showed it to two professors. It's like Ashford and Ruben Kadish. Ruben had been a contemporary of Jackson Pollock, but he was also like an insane fan of Crazy Cat. So like 82 years old, this guy was like the only teacher I could show this like graffiti influenced work to, and he got it.
So you just have to study normal fine arts?
Fine arts, you have to declare a major. I majored in sculpture and became a welder. A lot of stuff that's still around the sea. Hasn't fallen out yet. But it was a difficult environment if that's what you wanted to pursue. And I had a very different idea when I came in there as a freshman about what was going to happen, because I had been told that you could sort of develop your own major, et cetera, but it was very much along the lines of what they were sort of prepared to teach you, what they recognized as work. I mean, I showed one teacher Don Kuntz, just to sort of test him out, and the look on his face, I just told him, whoa, wrong door. Like, I would not do that again. So, but basically, my friends and I just sort of taught each other. Javier Michalski, Ingrid Vesberg, who I think still works for Topps, really talented guys, but we would literally show like